Um, my friend Sarah was like on the Guatemala water systems project, and like all the people seemed cool. So I went to the interest meeting, and it seemed cool, so I wanted to join. And then whoever wants to go next can go.
Hi, I guess I'll go. I'm Chandler. I am one of the two Guatemala Water System co-leads. Um, I'm originally from Charlotte. I'm a senior in environmental engineering. And how I got involved. So my friend went to an interest meeting um, for it, and it was like in the Daniels, like the or not Daniels, the Dabney like giant lecture hall, and it was packed and really intimidating. But all of the officers seemed like really nice and accommodating to everyone. So I ended up being able to join GWS, and here I am.
I can go. Oh, Todd. No, I'll go first. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashlyn, and I'm a North Carolina projects co-lead, and I'm an environmental engineering major, and this is my third year and this semester with EWB. I wanted to join EWB since before college because I've always been interested in international development, which is ironic because I'm the North Carolina projects co-lead. But yeah, it's been really fun and I love EWB. So.
Okay, I can go next. I'm Todd Beam. I'm an electrical engineer in my senior year. Let's see. I am from Lewisburg, North Carolina, which is a little bit outside of Raleigh, so I'm pretty local. And I joined EWB because I like Ashlyn, I kind of wanted to always do international development. Specifically, I was always super interested in renewable energy. And I don't remember how I heard about EWB, but probably an email. And I thought it sounded super cool and exactly like what I was looking for. And so I came to an interest meeting, and now I'm project lead on Sierra Leone.
All right. Yeah, my name is Sarah. I'm a junior in civil engineering. Where am I from? My hometown is here, Durham, North Carolina. We moved like across Raleigh, Cary, all over the place. I heard about EWB my freshman year at this kind of panel they had for freshmen in engineering, and I thought it sounded really cool. So I came to an interest meeting and yeah, joined the SLRE team.
Hello, I'm Quentin. I'm the technical director for EWB, and I'm a junior majoring in computer science. And I'm from Chapel Hill. I don't know if I said that, but the reason I joined EWB is kind of like Ashlyn and Todd. I'm a pretty internationally focused person. Like my mom is French, and I've always kind of like had that international focus, I guess. And EWB seemed like a good way to give back to communities that I don't really interact with enough. So, yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Madison, and I'm a sophomore for computer science here. My hometown is Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. I heard about EWB, I think my welcome week in freshman year. And I've always been involved in like environmental clubs during high school. So it's just along my similar interests, but I'm really glad I joined.
Are those all of the officers / representatives? Is Connie here?
I don't think she's here yet.
Okay, that's fine. Cool, so we'll go ahead and get started. Just to provide you guys with a general outline, we did officer intros. The first half of the meeting will be community focused, so we will focus on our purpose, mission. We'll go over just like a brief history of how EWB came to be about. We'll go over some like attendance, expectation stuff, how to remain an active member, time, commitment, especially since we're in a pandemic right now. Some fundraising stuff. We do have a fundraising team separate from our project teams. And then we will go into just general body things, community events that we have, volunteering opportunities, and then we will go into talking about our specific project teams from our project leads that are here. Sierra Leone Water, Renewable Energy, Guatemala Water Systems, and North Carolina projects. We will then end with some questions and then have a sign up for our email list. If you do have to leave early for whatever reason, you can just drop your email in the chat and we will be sure to add you onto the email list. Cool, so EWB, our purpose is to have international development, or initiate international development within the NC State community outwards by using multidisciplinary hands-on interactions with the communities that we communicate with. This isn't something where we just go into a community and just have this one-time implementation project. We don't just go in, build a well, and then walk out feeling good. That isn't what we are. That isn't what we represent. We communicate with these communities over a process of at least 5 years. That's how our model works. And we make sure that we are providing communities with whatever we can, that we can accurately provide them with as college students, with the amount of technical expertise that we have. As people who are only studying engineering or whatever major you are, not actually engineers with a professional engineering license. But we make sure that that this is like a two-way street, that we're not coming up on our high horses and just trying to enact change. This is something where both parties benefit. We are both getting something out of this, and we're both learning a lot in the process. And that's what EWB USA is all about. But our specific NC State mission is to empower communities and equip leaders internationally and locally to meet their needs through sustainable engineering projects, all while developing students into cross-cultural servant leaders that champion diversity, inclusion, and humility. This is really important. This is what our entire chapter is revolved around. And I'm gonna let Q say what he said at the other interest meeting about how sustainable is the most important word in this aspect. But yeah, if any of the other officers want to talk about any aspect of this mission statement that pops out to them, you can go ahead and do that.
I guess I got volunteered. So for me, the sustainability part of this is the sustainable part of it is very important, because the big thing with EWB is not going into a place and just kind of making something and leaving. It's all about making something that can sustain, not just environmentally, but also just in the community, that can continue to be built upon and refurbished if it breaks down, and just something that lasts and actually serves the community that they need.
I also want to highlight the last word, humility, because I think part of just going into any other community, whether that be in North Carolina or in a different country, you need to know that, yes, you have skills to potentially help them, but you're not hot stuff, you don't know all the answers, and just you need to be able to accept that you don't know everything, and be willing to listen. And you'll hear more about how we've listened and worked with the communities we've had projects with, but that's an also very important word, I think.
So just to go into some brief history about how EWB was founded and came to be about in the US, this civil engineering professor, Dr. Barnard Amadei, went to this community in San Pablo, Belize to assess their water supply, and basically saw that this community of like 950 individuals did not have a clean water supply, and that met their sanitation needs. So he used this waterfall, this nearby waterfall, resources that they already had, to create this clean water system that was able to give them that need. Obviously, he has a lot more experience with engineering than we do, but we do try to enact similar projects to him, using him as the blueprint. But in 2002, the university that he works with became the first student chapter of EWB, and then in 2006, EWB NCSU was founded, and we are still growing today. We have 4 active projects going on right now that you will hear about halfway through this meeting. But we're going to talk about our community stuff right now. So that includes like general body, fundraising, community events, membership expectations, time, all that fun stuff. But the way that we normally record attendance is through participation incentives. And you can basically get points by going to like general body meetings, service events, volunteering events. We did some hurricane cleanups last year. We also like pick up trash, all that fun like volunteering stuff. And at the end of each semester, there are prizes, as there are with any point system usually. And people who earn the most points will get fun stuff like cups and backpacks and things like that. But it's a really fun thing actually, because like we'll usually present the prizes at like an end of the year like party thing. We had a little like Christmas holiday party at the end of 2 semesters ago. Yeah, so fall 2019 semester, where we presented all of the like volunteering attendance point prizes, and it's really fun. It's a community thing, and you really get to know people outside of your own project team by going to these events. I went to a cleanup when I was in my freshman year, and that's where I got to meet some people in like Sierra Leone and Guatemala that I hadn't gotten to meet when I was in North Carolina projects. So it's a really fun opportunity. And just to go back, we are not requiring dues for this semester, but they are usually $20. But some membership expectations. So you're either an active member or an inactive member, and you have to remain an active member, you have to go to at least 1 general body meeting per semester. We usually have about 3 to 4 general body meetings, and then you have to go to 2 other events per semester. So that means like things that I expressed on the last slide: volunteering opportunities, fundraising opportunities, things of that nature. To remain a project member on your team, you have to meet those general body expectations and abide by like attendance policy. And then officers have to attend at least 3 general body meetings and go to all officer meetings if you are interested in an officer position. Amy, did you want to add on to any of that?
That sounds good. So we recently like started keeping track, I guess, of active versus inactive members, and we did this not to like be intimidating, like you have to stay active, but more like to kind of incentivize people like who commit to, let's say, like a project, that they're actually going and not taking up the space of somebody who would be going to like all the meetings if they aren't going to any, or if they're only going to like 2 a semester. So that's kind of why we started keeping track, and there has been more of a demand, I guess, for
club recently. I think it's because a ton of like engineering ambassadors like know like people in EWB, so they just like talk about it more. Uh, we got a plug, so that's great. But that's why we started to do it. But when you are initially, like when you start being a member, you're automatically active, so do all the things. And then, so our fundraising committee, or like our fundraising team, is the only team that is open to the general body. And this is honestly the most important team because all of these projects cost a lot of money. On like one of the earlier slides when it talked about the first EWB project, it was like $14,500-ish. That's really cheap for one of these projects. So we need money, and so we have try to have fundraising events throughout the semester. And every year we have a benefit dinner where we invite all of our partners and professors if we like them, and families and everything. But we also have like, I guess, corporate sponsors. We like apply to a ton of different grants to try to get money, and we partner with some local companies who also want to give us money. But the fundraising is, you can be on a project team and also be a part of fundraising. They're a fun group of people, and they're like the most important group. But if you go to the next slide, you can see a picture about some of our fundraising events in the past. So we had a contra dancing event. We also had a Engineers with Burgers event, EWB, with some other like civil engineering clubs, and just like a 25 days of giving to like incentivize like trying to get funds from like family members or like just professors or anyone who would give us money. And then in the next slide, we have pictures from the benefit dinner. So normally, without a global pandemic, it's in Hunt Library, and like 150, I want to say, people can come, and then we have like a nice dinner and a presenter, and then we also like highlight everything we've done over the years. But this past semester, it was online. So you can see me talking about our chapter in the middle there. So that was like interesting, but we still could have like a panel discussion of 3 cool professionals. Yeah. And then I can talk about this one too. So like I said, I'm the vice president of chapter development. So part of my job is putting on the general body meetings every semester. So there's normally about 3 or 4 meetings for the general body. And during those, we either have a workshop or a guest speaker, or sometimes we just play fun games like Jeopardy. It all just depends. My favorite one recently is pictured at the bottom. This is like before I was the VP, so I'm not trying to like pat myself on the back or anything. But the speaker was the CEO of this nonprofit called All We Are, and they install solar systems onto schools and like medical centers in Uganda. And their model is like so similar to the EWB model for international development. So it's like really ethical work. And one thing that I thought was really cool from that was for every solar installation, they make a board who's like in charge of the like just decisions for the solar system. So that has to be like 50% women and include like teachers, students, and just like members from like the community, and making sure everyone's like represented, which I thought was really cool. But they're fun, I think.
Cool. And lastly, but we have some like community events that we do. We do like ice skating, roller skating, rock climbing, all of that fun stuff. We also have those pretty like mainstream like restaurant money thingies or if you go to if you go to a certain restaurant, I know Chipotle does them sometimes during a certain time, then they will give that to us, and it's a really just great way to eat food and get money, which are two pretty amazing things. But yeah, we have fun together, and it's a really like family-oriented environment. And like Amy said, we need money all the time. We love money. And we have sponsors that help us to get to where we need to be for our monetary goals. Some of our grant sponsors are listed here. And another thing that we wanted to mention is that when you are an EWB, you may have to write some grants, some grant like applications or whatever to be sponsors. And that's a really, really like necessary skill to have, especially if you want to go into research. And it's a really great thing to put on your resume. So if we haven't given you enough reasons, that's another one. But basically, how do I get involved? Well, we have general body meetings, like we said. The first one's going to be next month, date TBD. And yeah, we talked about a lot of these things, but one thing that we've yet to highlight is officer elections. We're going to be having those in the fall, and that's a really big way to make an impact. We have so many leadership opportunities within EWB. We have everyone on the officer team, and that includes like project leads, and within like certain project teams, you also have like sub leads for I know within like North Carolina projects, there's like the water systems lead, and then like the energy team lead, and then the volunteering and lesson planning team lead. So there are just like so many opportunities to get involved, so many opportunities to just volunteer your time. And it's a great way to hone your leadership skills. And here are some methods of communication that we have. If you sign up for the email list, we will put a QR code at the end of the entire meeting where you can sign up for the email list, but you will get weekly emails from our president, Connie Feinberg, and some groups use like GroupMe or Discord. We also have our website if you needed any clarification about what we do or events that we have. And then you can follow us on social media, which is headed by our lovely technical director, Quentin. We love him, we all love him. But yeah, we're gonna go into some project stuff for half an hour, and then we are going to pick it up for questions afterward.
All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. I'm sorry for talking about money so much. I feel like you could make a Mr. Krabs meme out of me right now.
Write that down.
Anyway, so the reason we need money is because of our lovely projects. So basically for all of our international projects, we have to follow EWB international guidelines. And so these are the things that they want us to keep in mind when we approach a project. The one thing I want to...
I think we're just seeing your stress-strain relationship lab.
No. Sorry, that's for my lab. Oh no.
It's very cool still, but
Thanks. How do I stop? This is so embarrassing. All right, there it is. I like chose it and everything. What do you see now? Okay.
It's the presentation.
All right. So anyway, one thing I want to highlight here is, again, sustainability. So for all of our projects, we use locally sourced materials so that if something breaks in the community can easily replace it, because after we like do the installation with them, it's off of our hands. Like we don't want to make it so that whenever a problem comes up that they have to contact us and then go through all of these loopholes, or not, like, I don't know, but we basically just want to make sure that they feel that they own their projects. And so besides just like sustainable energy and low impact, that's what sustainable means for our projects. And then, so these are all the projects types that EWB has. And then for our chapter, we have a water project in Guatemala. We just finished a water and energy project in Sierra Leone, and then we have energy and water projects in North Carolina as well. And then, so for all of our international projects, we have to partner with a non-governmental organization. And the reason for this is because we don't know anything going into like a new country. And because of that, it's important to partner with somebody who's kind of familiar doing developmental work, or just partnering with a community that we're partnering with. So they really guide us through the entire process. And then these are the 3 phases for our projects, and you'll learn a little bit more about all of these in the presentations. So I'll pass it off to Sierra Leone now.
Okay, let me go ahead and start. So I'm Todd Bean. I'm Sierra Leone Project's Renewable Energy Lead along with Sarah. Can we go to the next slide? So we've been working in Sierra Leone. It's the roundest country in the world. That's all I got for you right now. And as you can see, it's in the tropics. It's very hot. And we also were working most recently at the Dele School, which is I think K through 12 school. I'm not sure if those are the exact grades, but it's essentially elementary, middle, high school all in one. And they needed water and electricity resources. So I can pass it over to Madison for Sierra Leone Water.
Okay, so I don't even think I said in my introduction, but I'm filling in for the officer of the water, but I was on the water with him. So in 2011 was the initial assessment of the school, and 2013 as well. So just trying to decide what steps to take for the project and get the application figured out and make a plan for the actual implementation. Can we go to the next slide? So here's the school setup. So I wasn't on the travel trip, but on the blueprint here, you can see kind of like the setup of where the school was, and it was on a hilly terrain. So there was a tank and the well, and they have each different parts for implementation and getting clean water to the school. Okay, so for the implementation, so in 2016 was the first implementation. And 2018 was the second, and I have the exact kind of details of each. Let me just pull that up. So in the 2016 trip, they accomplished drilling a well, assessing the aquifer, and installing a hand pump. And assessments were made for a distribution system. And the 2018 trip, that installed another pump, a PV array, and just basically getting all the pumps set up for the water. Yep. And then most recently, we had our or 2018 was implementation 2. So then we had our March monitoring trip, and that was also including kind of like an informal assessment of what other projects we want to do in the future, because we just recently closed the Sierra Leone water project. So we'll be looking at maybe like some local schools in the area still and seeing how we can help out there. Okay, so here's kind of some pictures of the pumps and the water stations at the school. If Todd or Quentin wants to kind of jump in either, that's cool. They were on the travel team.
I can jump in. So pretty much on the right where you see all the pipes and all that lovely stuff, that's how the water gets cleaned. And in the middle picture on top is a water, like a hand washing station, because they're big on sanitation there, especially with the Ebola crisis. That's a huge part of the school, and the school's I don't know, the school's organization now is all about like being clean. And then in the bottom you can see the pipe, the water jugs that are set up. So essentially there's an electrical pump that runs from the water from the well, cleans the water up, and then brings it into the pump, into the jugs. And then the jug is at the top of the school so that the water can flow down into everywhere that it's needed.
Cool, thank you. So those are some insight on the pumps that were installed in the school.
All right, hey guys, yeah, I'm Sarah. I'm the other co-lead with Todd for Sierra Leone Renewable Energy. Just gonna walk you guys through what we've done so far. So in 2012, the initial assessment trip was taken, and like SLW, this project's been in the work for quite a while. So the trip was taken to figure out exactly what the school's energy needs was. Most of Sierra Leone does not have like reliable access to power. I think it's something on the order of 15% of the entire country has access to electricity. And what they do get tends to be very unreliable. They get blackouts, that kind of thing. So to combat this, the school had bought diesel generators, which they were using to power their lights, the refrigerators, and the computer lab. But the issue is with this was that to power the computer lab, they had to shut down all the lights and turn off the refrigerator. So obviously this wasn't like a sustainable solution. So our team decided to implement solar panels. So in 2014, we took another assessment trip to really figure out what the school needed and how best we can serve them. And in 2018, we actually implemented the system. So as you can see on the right, on top of the school's buildings there, it's 24 solar panels and it's a 7 kilowatt system. Oh, one other thing to mention, sorry, you can go back for a second. The reason there's such a big gap between 2014 assessment and 2018 implementation was because of the Ebola crisis. Usually the most projects span about 5 years. This one took 8 years. We try to have a smaller turnaround time, but due to the Ebola crisis, we weren't able to travel. And yeah, and then in 2020, we took our final monitoring trip with SLW. We kind of combined forces there since we were both kind of at the same place in our projects. So we closed out the project with the school, really made sure we addressed any concerns they had about the system, and ran tests to ensure it was operating well enough to meet their need. So right now, we are in the process of closing out both of these projects, and we're looking for our next project. So we were actually we're talking with 2 schools in Sierra Leone, Browndell and Goshen, and we're attempting to see if we can possibly work with them in the future. So this is kind of an exciting time to join both of our projects since we're just starting off, and you can get to see how these projects are done from the beginning. And Todd, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to say real quick that I think that another important detail about Browndell and Goshen is that we are contacting them through the community that we've already made networks with. Essentially, there's the school administrator for the Delhi school where we put in these projects is named Auntie Frances, and she's great. She is essentially, a keystone in this community for, all 3 of these schools. Delhi is the school she was the administrator at, and I believe her son is the administrator of Browndell, but I'm not sure if it's someone else. But yeah, we really like working with these communities, and we really like that we can continue to like use the contacts we have in country, and so hopefully we can really get exactly what they need to both of these schools.
All right, and then we can pass it on to GWS.
Hey guys, so like I said before, I'm Chandler. I'll be talking to you about our Guatemala water systems project. So our community is in central Guatemala, which is in Central America. So we actually work basically like where you see Guatemala spelled out on the map. The community is around that first A, or sorry, the second A. There are 3 A's in Guatemala. But yeah, that's where, so our community is called Caserio Panjush, and it's a small community outside of a larger township called San Cristobal Verapaz, which is where our NGO is, which is Centro Comunitario Educativo Pocomchi, or CSEP for short. So that the CSEP is our main organization point of contact. It's where we sort of spend our time planning, and we stay in that area whenever we go down to Guatemala. So a little bit more about the community. So Caserio Panjush has about 54 families, around 310 people. Since we started the project in 2016, we've seen a good bit, or a pretty steady increase in families. So there have been 6 new families to the community. They are an indigenous Mayan people. They speak Pocomchi, which is an indigenous Mayan language. So everyone in the community speaks Pocomchi, and then a lot of people in the youngest generation speak Spanish as well. So we're typically able to speak directly to the children with Spanish, but whenever we go into the community, we typically bring translators to translate from Spanish to Pocomchi, and then back as well. And then these are some of the children in the community. And just a little backstory for the community. So in Guatemala, there was a civil war from 1960 to 1996. So that's almost 4 decades between the Guatemalan military and the indigenous Mayan people. And what ended up happening is that a lot of indigenous people, indigenous communities were completely destroyed, and it left a lot of indigenous people displaced. And so Caserio Panjush is an example of a community of displaced indigenous people who ended up resettling in a rural mountainous region. If we go to the next slide. So basically when we first came to the community over spring break in 2017 for our assessment trip, we found that basically their situation, since they had to resettle in sort of a more mountainous region, they were having to walk up to 6 hours of like rough mountainous terrain to get water every day. And the people who ended up doing this task were the women of the household primarily, and then the children as well. So this took away a lot of time that they could have spent receiving their education or developing more products to sell to generate revenue for the household. It generally was just a lot of time spent doing something that definitely should have been made more accessible to them. So when we originally came in, we wanted to look at the potential to build a well. And so we looked around the community and we took a lot of water samples of the groundwater, and yeah, saving time. So you can see in the top right corner a picture of a bunch of vials, and this was actually the groundwater that we tested. And so when the travel team went down, typically like the test requires to be heated up, and so actually they got really creative, and because they didn't really have a consistent heat source readily available like we would in a lab, they tape them to their bodies and use their body heat to warm them up. So upon analysis of those samples, we did find that there was E. coli and other biological contaminants in the water, which would make the groundwater not really a sustainable source for water in the community. So when we went home, if you go to the next slide, when the travel team came back, there was a mutual understanding between the community and the team that the community wanted rainwater harvesting systems, and that would be the better option rather than seeking groundwater. So the rainwater harvesting system design in this specific scenario involves a 2,500 liter storage tank with gutters and PVC piping running around each house. And the storage tanks are typically located next to or near each home. So the idea is that whenever it rains, the rain that collects on the roofs will run down and then be stored in the tank for whenever they need it. And then obviously across rain cycles, like in between, dirt and debris accumulates on top of roofs. So we wanted to make sure that we addressed that issue as well by implementing a first flush system, which you can kind of see in one of the red PVC pipes on the second picture running down behind the storage tank. And basically the idea for this is that by the time, like when it starts raining, all of the initial water will flow into that first pipe. And by the time it fills up, it will have collected all of the dirt and debris that would have collected on the roof between rain cycles. So that was able to get rid of the larger aggregates in the water. But we do still encourage the households to boil their water. This was a way that they were treating their water before, and it's something that we encourage them to do now as well. So that was our assessment trip. So since then, we've been able to travel 3 times for 3 different implementation trips. So the first one was summer 2018, and then we had another December 2018, and then another August 2019. So the one in December 2018 was actually really cool. The travel team was able to spend Christmas with the community since they traveled over winter break. So that was a really unique an educational experience for our travel team as well. And you can see in the first picture there at the top, that's a lot of the people in the community and some of the travel team posing outside of the school in the community. And then also you can see below that a picture of one of the tanks and how its size compares to one of the children in the community. And they're really big tanks. So if you go to the next slide. So currently what we are looking at, so in May, we were supposed to travel down to Guatemala for a vacation. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to sort of get creative on how we were going to continue with this implementation, if it was something that we wanted to continue, which we decided that we definitely did. The community was very excited for it. So we came to the conclusion after talking with CSEP in the community that the community was definitely more than equipped with the knowledge and the capability of implementing the systems on their own. It was just a matter of getting those materials there for them. So right now we're actually in the middle of conducting a remote implementation. We actually just got the notification today that our funds, the transfer request has been approved by EWB USA. So those funds are getting sent over there in 2 days for the financial cycles run twice a month. So the next opportunity is 2 days from now, and then it'll take about a week for the materials to be bought and brought into the community, and then they'll start with the actual implementation. So if you were to join our team now, that's what we would be looking at, and it's actually been a really unique experience. But since we turned this implementation into a remote implementation, after talking with the community and with CSEP, we decided that we were actually going to look at taking on the additional 6 families that have moved to the community since we took on this project. So we are planning to have a 5th and final implementation trip at some point when everything clears. So that's also something to look forward to, an in-person implementation trip, and then we'll sort of transition into our monitoring phase. But yeah, that's GWS. I'll pass it over to Ashlyn for NCP.
Hey everybody, like Chandler said, I'm Ashlyn. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about North Carolina projects. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the similarities and the differences between North Carolina projects and the international teams, because you're probably wondering why there's a North Carolina projects team for an international development club. But yeah, so North Carolina projects is a little bit more fast-paced because we don't have as much long-distance education, and we don't have to transfer funds or anything like that. So instead of the typical 5-year timeline you see with the international projects, we kind of shoot for a 1-year timeline. Obviously, COVID's kind of slowed our current project down a little bit, but that's okay. We usually shoot for about a year. But we do follow the same steps of assessment, implementation, and monitoring as the international teams when we're going to a new site in North Carolina. But our goal is for our members to understand the challenges of North Carolina and then equip you guys with the skills to address those challenges, whether that be with your mindset and knowledge about North Carolina, or just how to use a drill or something like that. So we love to teach you guys technical skills, leadership skills, people skills, things like that through our projects. And we have a little bit of everything. So we have a pretty big team because we have a kind of broad array of interests that people have. So we have 4 teams, as you can see on the slide up here. We have an energy team that's working with a solar panels for a solar system with our current project, an irrigation team, a lesson planning team, and a volunteer planning team. Can you go next slide? Yes. So Powell Elementary School is where our current project is. So as you can see in the photo here, I'm gonna try to do something cool. Let's see if it works. Yes. So over here we have a little courtyard garden, and I'll point here at these rain barrels. Basically, our system takes water from these rain collected barrels here, because it comes from the roof and drips down into these water barrels. There's a bigger picture here. But yeah, so our team is designing a irrigation system so that this water can be, automatically water this garden, because for the time being, janitors are just kind of scooping water out and watering the plants when the kids aren't there, and now the kids are never there. So they really need someone to be able to water the plants on their own. And we may even be implementing an irrigation bicycle that was previously built by this team about 2 years ago now, where you pedal a bike and it will turn a water pump and then take water and, get the water flow going through these little garden beds here, which will be fun for the kids when they come back. Yeah, see, we're programming the solar part with an Arduino. So yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces here, and it's definitely over-engineered. But like I said before, this is about giving you guys experience, and it's fun for the kids, it's fun for us, so why not over-engineer it? We're currently in the implementation phase this semester because it was supposed to be last semester, we're supposed to complete it, but we're going to be kind of slowly doing that, small groups at a time this semester. So if you're interested in joining, you may be a part of that, which is pretty cool. We're also having to convert all of our teaching materials because we were supposed to come in person to the school to teach these kids about all the cool stuff we were doing, all about Engineers Without Borders. But we're going to be converting those to virtual materials for the students, likely some fun videos, maybe some presentations that the teachers can give their students, but likely some videos with fun visuals that kids enjoy, because we really love education. We love teaching young kids about engineering, about sustainability, all of that stuff. That's one of our main goals. And after this, we'll be searching for a new project. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And we'll hopefully get outside the Raleigh area, because that's where Powell is, if you didn't know. It's in Raleigh, just a little short drive away, but we're trying to expand a little bit and see other North Carolina issues, whether that be at the mountains or the coast. But we'll see. We'll see what volunteering is a huge part of what NCP does. Volunteering is for everybody. So if you're on any team, if you're not on the team at all, you can volunteer with us. We just plan it out for you. It's probably my favorite part of NCP just because I really love volunteering. And basically, we just organize it so we send you a date and time and place, and you can show up, and we have work for you to do. It's going to be a little different this semester, obviously, because we're not going to be having big groups standing in a corner and taking pictures together and hugging and whatever. Whenever you're happy you've accomplished something, we'll be wearing masks more like this photo, except we were trying to protect ourselves from installing insulation there. That's a little more different, and hopefully we'll be back to that sort of thing pretty soon. But for now, we're going to be looking for virtual opportunities and maybe more socially distanced things. But if you love planning things, if you like organizing, this is something that could be of interest to you. We do all kinds of variety of volunteering. So if that's something you like, if you like helping people, hit me up. But yeah, that's about it for North Carolina projects. If you're talking, Amy, you're muted.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. I'm having all the technical problems today. But so every semester there's an opportunity to apply to be on Sierra Leone, Guatemala, or North Carolina projects, and this semester is no different. We aren't sure exactly when the applications will open up, but it should be in about within 2 weeks, I believe. But that information will be on Connie's email. Connie's the president, by the way. But thank you. And then I'm going to pass it over to, if I can stop presenting, pass it over to Najoni. I don't know. I'm just going to put it up on my screen because I don't know how to. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So if you guys want to go ahead and pull up your phones, use that QR code, you can join our email list and tell us how you heard about us so that we can improve our PR system. But yeah, does anyone have any questions? We have a few minutes before we are going to wrap up this meeting. You can type them. Bye, Q. Oh, he says follow the Instagram for more great content.
I also have to head out, but shoot me an email if you have any questions for me.
Bye, Amy. Thanks. I'm writing down emails if you all are not able to scan the QR code.
Oh, I actually have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm in a weird situation. I'm actually UNC based, but I am in the Joint Biomedical Engineering department. I got sent this link for the Zoom, and I'm really interested in the club. Would it be possible for me to, I mean, obviously you guys are online this semester, so it's different, but would it be possible for me to join the club even though I'm at UNC?
I don't see why not. If you received the email, I think if you're eligible to go and if you have access to the Get Involved NC State page.
I'm taking classes here, and I have access to resources, but I don't know if it would be in person a problem as well. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you're definitely welcome in my opinion. It's just a matter of if the university's Get Involved website would recognize you as a club member. I would say that would be a good way to figure out if you're technically able to, but you're definitely welcome to at least get on the email list and apply for projects and whatnot. Did anyone else have anything to say about that question?
I don't know if there's any logistical information about other students not being able to join clubs or anything, but we can always check with our club teacher, professor, representative person.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I will, what's your email? I can write your email down and get back to you about that. Solon?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, cool.
I see that we have.
Yeah, somebody asked a question. How do travel teams work? How much do we have to pay?
So, travel teams, basically like within the project team, the team leads sort of like talk to the group and figure out like when a good time to travel would be, and talk to the community and figure out the logistics of that. And then typically like once the loose time window is set, team or project leads will start accepting applications for traveling. And then depending on how big the travel team size needs to be, they'll sort of go through that process. And yeah, so it's like application based to like travel. How much do you pay? So it's a little different for each team, because traveling to Sierra Leone is a little bit more expensive than traveling to Guatemala. Travel teams aren't typically highly selective. I'd say, like, in my personal experience, like around like 10 to 12 people will apply, and then only like 8 will go. Yeah, but like the travel teams are typically like, I'd say around like 8 to 10 people. But so yeah, how much you pay. So typically you have to pay for your own vaccinations and like your visa and everything. And then traveling on itself is typically expected to be covered by the student, like the flight and everything. But we usually like apply through some of the opportunities that are offered by each of the departments to fund travel. So a lot of times, like a large percentage of the travel fees are covered by the university. Like Engineer Your Experience. I don't know how many of y'all have heard about that. Todd, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say that sorry, I have to collect my thoughts. So the Engineer Your Own Experience, or Engineer Your Experience, I guess, school organization pays for most, at least in Sierra Leone's case, pays for like the entire ticket. That is kind of subject to limits though. For instance, our most recent trip, we did have trouble where we were going to travel in the winter, but winter is marriage season in Sierra Leone. And so the plane's tickets skyrocketed right before we bought them. And so, but we don't cover those costs personally as like travelers. We just, like Chandler said, we cover you have to be ready to travel. You have to have like a passport and a visa and be vaccinated, but you don't actually have to pay for like the plane tickets so much.
How has COVID changed the dynamic of local volunteering? I think these are some questions for you, Ashlyn.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so local volunteering obviously can't be done the same, just because usually we load up in a van and go somewhere and then work closely with each other the whole time. But now we're doing, like, there's opportunities for like actual virtual volunteering, which our team is working on currently. And we're kind of actually moving more towards helping with like education. So like the whole lesson planning, making videos for kids. We've realized there's a lot of places that are hosting like elementary school age kids that can't be at home by themselves while their parents are at work. They're having to stay, like at Marbles Kids Museum, they have a place for kids to stay and do their work. Something to keep them occupied and educated on like sustainability, things like that, like making videos and things. That's something that we are moving towards. It's uncharted territory for us, virtual volunteering. So that's something that we're figuring out, and we need ideas. But I mean, it's going to be interesting, and I'm hoping well, we'll see where this goes, but like next semester we may be back into in-person volunteering. And if we did do any in-person volunteering, which I don't foresee this semester, but if we did, it'd be very socially distanced. And the next question. So yeah, volunteering events are for all EWB members, whether you're on Sierra Leone, Guatemala, local, fundraising, or none of those things. You're just a general member, you can volunteer with us. We just plan them. That's all we do. And we contact people, we ask around for people who need help with their volunteering endeavors, or we plan our own volunteering events. And we basically just plan it and then send Connie an email, and Connie sends it out. The president sends that out to everybody so that everyone knows when and where it is and can sign up. So yeah, does that answer that question? Just because I know there's been a lot of confusion with that. Cool. Glad I answered those things. If anybody wants my email, I'll just put it in the chat if you have more questions about that, just because I know it can be confusing.
And we have one more question that any of our project leads can answer. Can people switch project teams during the year, or are they locked into a project for the entire school year?
So I can give some insight into that. So typically on the application, if you want to apply to be on the travel team, they'll ask you for your top choices. I think top 3 choices. So you'll put either top 3 or top 2, but there's Guatemala water, or there was Sierra Leone, the renewable energy and water. So once you put those on, you might not get your first choice, and you're kind of placed into the team that your skills would fit best for, assuming you get into one. But usually you'd be locked into that project. Like you can't switch like, oh, I'm going to be Guatemala now. But I did know some people, for example, like who wanted to do NC projects instead, because they preferred to have a lot more like hands-on experience and more volunteering, versus like the travel team is a lot of like doing like writing for grants and preparing for the trip like that. So, but usually you would be on to one team unless you want to, you can also join fundraising, I know, and do volunteering as well.
And to clarify there, you do have to apply for NCP. Used to, you didn't have to, so some people could just join, but like now you have to wait until the next like cycle of applications, which is once a semester. And then if you want to be on a different team, you have to like apply for the new team. But fundraising, I think you can you join fundraising whenever, or can you just join at the beginning of each cycle?
I think at this point, people are welcome to join whenever. Just maybe if you decide to join, like don't just show up one week and then like take on a whole bunch of responsibility and then like not show up at all anymore. But I think that would go for any of the projects. But also to clarify, I think this was brought up like earlier in the presentation, but since we're talking about it, since it's relevant now, I just want to emphasize that so like you can be on more than one team in EWB, but like Sierra Leone renewable energy, Sierra Leone water, NCP, and GWS, those are all mutually exclusive. So you can't be on more than one of those projects at one time, just because all of those projects are really, I don't want to say they're like super demanding and like overload your schedule, but it's in the past, it hasn't been able to work out for anybody to be a part of more than one of those projects. But you can definitely be a part of one of those projects and then also volunteer and also be like on the fundraising team. It's just those 4 projects that are mutually exclusive.
And I just want to say, related to that, that's actually, that's part of the reason that I'm a huge fan of the volunteering opportunities that we have locally, because, you know, when you're on an international development team, it can feel kind of slow sometimes. I mean, we make progress in terms of years. So we're not, you know, you're not going to come to every meeting and then immediately get to, you know, like go out and then install something. But if you do the volunteering projects, at least I remember when I did it like last fall, it's a ton of fun, and you just sign up like on a week's term and then you go out for like a day and actually do stuff. And so that can feel really good if, you know, you need to like keep stuff hands-on for you, but you still want to be part of like an international team. So I definitely recommend the volunteering projects as soon as they start again.
Cool. Thank you guys, by the way, for staying afterward for a little bit to answer questions and everything. I don't see any other questions in the chat, but my email is right there, pre@ewbncsu.org. And we all have our emails on the ewbncsu.org webpage. If you had any clarifying questions, make sure you sign up for the email list if you're still interested. Hope you are. But it was great talking to all of you, and we hope to see you sometime this semester. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording.